Welcome to the Closing the Wealth Gap Pain Truth Money series with your host, Raquel M.R. Thomas. Each episode is designed to teach you, discuss ways to elevate and motivate you.
I'm Raquel Richardson Thomas, your host, and today it's near and dear to my heart. I've been having some conversations, and one of the things that I think about when I think about closing the wealth gap is how important it becomes to understand what support is and what support is for different people and what that means, almost as if it's a love language when you're talking about support. But before we jump into my thought process today in reference to closing the wealth gap, pain, truth, and money, I'm going to start with a quote like I always do. And this one is by a young lady. Her first name is Gloria. I didn't quite get her last name because I was fumbling through some things, but here's the quote. Clinging to the past is the problem. Embracing the future is the solution. And I'm going to say that one more time. Clinging to the past is the problem. Embracing the future is the solution. Today, that quote is very fitting because I truly believe that clinging to the past isn't going to bring what you need to get through your today and your tomorrow. Clinging to the past typically just generates hurt. It typically doesn't yield the best results. So in the process of trying to find solutions for problems, you have to think about your future and where you're going and what you need. And that leads us right into our topic today of support and how support is a huge part of closing the wealth gap. I do this because it's so important for me to give back, number one. It's important for me to share my knowledge, number two, and to have open dialogue about the questions and the things that are going on in the world that affect our communities, especially the African American community, but more so than the African American community, the minority community, women, and so on and so forth, advocating for children because they can't quite advocate for themselves. So when I say to you, it's important that I share, it really is. And oftentimes I'm so busy, I don't have time to share in other ways, but I'm going to make time moving forward. So in the midst of doing this, my goal is to inspire others through the power of entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur, so my goal is to inspire through entrepreneurship, and my goal is to build a tribe, and that's building people who build communities, who build businesses. And when we build businesses, we are effectively able to help build communities. So let's jump in. Support, and how does that tie into closing the wealth gap? You know, for us to truly close the wealth gap, we have to support others. When we're in position to provide jobs, when we're in position to hire individuals, when we work for other companies, we must support those people that need us the most. So that's a big one when we talk about support and how that helps close the wealth gap, making sure that we have employment options for individuals, whether we're managing a business or whether we own our own business, supporting communities that really need our help by hiring people and creating jobs for them. Support also from business owner to business owner or friend to friend, husband and wife, so on and so forth, if you're in business together. And this is equally as important in your personal relationships, but being able to support one another and understanding that support is different for different people. So what I may consider support, you may not consider support. It doesn't mean that I'm not supporting you in the way that I know how or the way that I'm accustomed to supporting. But if it's not in the way that you need it, in the way that you want support to come, you're going to feel that you're not being supported. And it's taken me many, many years to really understand that, because in general, I'm a fixer. In general, I see a problem and I go right to, okay, let's fix it by doing this. If it costs a certain dollar amount, okay, let's get the money, let's pay for it, and let's move on. Well, in one of my business relationships, one of the things that I realized or came to realize from a conversation is support isn't necessarily financial for that person in particular. Support is putting in sweat equity. And for those of you that aren't aware, sweat equity is when you are taking your actual time and pouring it into someone or people that need it. So sweat equity. So while one person may feel that financial assistance is support, another person may feel that it's not support, and sweat equity is more important. So make sure when you are effectively trying to help people and build relationships, that you are putting yourself in position to support them how they're going to receive it, not what you would receive or what you deem to be support, but make sure when you're supporting communities and people and businesses, when you're trying to figure out how to do your part in closing the wealth gap, you're actually providing the support that they need and how they're going to receive it. Another point that I have on my list today is support is different for different people. Support is different to different people, which goes to my point in saying you have to really determine what that support language is for the individuals that you're trying to support. Just like a love language, when you're trying to figure out the love language of your partner, you need to determine the support language of the people that you're trying to help. What do they need? What do they consider a need? Now, you may still come in with what you consider support, and it's going to be an intricate part of that process in closing that wealth gap, but you have to first determine what that group of people or person needs, and when it comes to support, to actually help them close the wealth gap so that they can receive it. And the next thing I have is we have to understand, and this is for the giver and the receiver, we have to understand that there's a difference between a hand up and a handout. There's a difference between a hand up and a hand out. You know, when you're giving a handout, is more so giving something to someone and you're not providing what they need to overcome the situation they're in. So when I like to think of support and how I can help close the wealth gap in communities that need it the most, especially with African Americans, I want to give a hand up. And if I give a hand up, that means I am helping them out of the situation, supporting them in getting out of the situation, giving them tools that are going to help them today, tomorrow, the next day, and so on and so forth. So when I think about support and I think about a hand up versus a hand down, we have to get into the rhythm of giving a hand up and not a handout. A hand up goes much further, because when we give a hand up, we are providing tools that are going to help them, not just in the moment, but tomorrow, the next day, and so on and so forth. So make sure that you're giving a hand up and not a handout, because a hand up goes much longer when we're talking about closing the wealth gap, which we're not going to be able to do overnight. It's going to take time and it's going to be a process. And again, I'm going to reiterate and close with my last point of closing the wealth gap: pain, truth, and money. When you are providing support, support does not always equal money. Support does not always equal money. Support is also sweat equity. So make sure when you're helping individuals, when you're helping communities, that not only are you helping financially close that wealth gap, but you're also helping with putting in sweat equity to help them close the wealth gap that they're facing, because it goes beyond just finances. So those are my points for today, and how we can be very active in closing the wealth gap and doing our part in closing the wealth gap. Number one, we talked about providing support and making sure that that support is reaching the communities in the way that they need. Number two, support is different for different people, and making sure you understand the support language, just like love language. You understand the support language of the people that you're trying to help or the person that you're trying to help. And number three, make sure you're giving a hand up and not a hand out. A hand up and not a hand out. And number four, support doesn't always equal money. Support is sweat equity. Support is providing ideas. Support is beyond finances. And that's closing the wealth gap, pain, truth, and money. I'm going to tie it all in. Normally I break out pain, truth, and money, but I'm going to tie it all in. There's a lot of pain when it comes to providing support to those people who need it, especially if you think you're there supporting, but they're not receiving what you're giving. That's painful. That becomes painful to the people who are looking for and the person who's looking for your support. Number two, when I think about support, while it could be painful, it does require money oftentimes to really provide support, but it's beyond money. It's beyond money. Support is also sweat equity and giving of yourself, your time, your heart, your mind. So it's beyond money. And being truthful with yourself, being able to self-reflect on how you are supporting communities and people, and is it effective? Are they receiving the support as you would wish for them to receive their support, or are you doing what works for you and not really understanding what support is needed in those communities or with those persons that you're trying to support? So in the process of helping closing the wealth gap, support is very important. It's equally as important in anything that we'll do. I thank you so much for tuning in today. I know it's your lunch break. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday on IGTV. IGTV, we post every Wednesday, and we post Raquel's Business Motivational Mastermind, where we talk about business, we give business tips, and also we're motivating and trying to get you to the next level. Business is not always easy, so if you're not following me on Instagram, I'm Raquel RT3. That's RAQUEL RT, the number 3 on Instagram. Make sure you get your notifications turned on. I'm on Facebook Live giving a segment on closing the wealth gap, pain, truth, and money. And today we talked about support and how support will help close the wealth gap. My website is RaquelMRThomas.com, www.RaquelMRThomas.com. Make sure you hop over there. We have a lot of cool content coming that we feel will really help you close the wealth gap, number one. It'll help with your business. And more importantly, we want to provide hope and encourage you to be your best self and go on to do great things, because we all have gifts and talents that have been given to us by God. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Raquel Richardson Thomas. I'm your host, and this is episode 7 of Closing the Wealth Gap, Pain, Truth, and Money. Make sure you're providing support that people can understand and the support that they need. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys soon.
This has been a Closing the Wealth Gap, Pain, Truth, Money episode. To find more and follow Raquel, please go to RaquelMRThomas.com.